We are Rogue Media Sports. We are Rogue Media Sports.
We are the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports. Welcome inside the Colt Brennan Memorial Studio. Happy Tuesday. Dang, yesterday went fast. Scotty, rolling the wheels of steel. I'm Cam Stewart bringing it to you. The big story, of course, last night in the sports World Series, Dodgers up 3-0. I will laugh at the Yankees in the next segment. I will laugh at the Yankees. Don't worry. But I did miss most of that game because I was watching, of course, the Boston Celtics. Now, I said this last week. I said I've come to the point where I need to watch every Celtics game now. It's too good. It's too much of an honor to not watch this team play every game. They're that good. And to be honest, they didn't play all that well last night, specifically for the first 2.5 quarters. They really just didn't. They were okay. Tatum did not play well. Brown had to wake up late. Giannis and Dame were getting theirs. And Milwaukee was, not hanging, having the lead most of that game. And then the Celtics woke up in the third quarter, specifically towards the end of that third quarter, and they ended up winning by double digits. This team, man. They didn't play well for almost 3 full quarters against another contender in the East, against a team with 2 Hall of Famers in their starting lineup who both went off. And the Celtics still win it by double digits. Like, no problem. Like, it's nothing. Jason Tatum gets 15 points and they still beat the Bucks by double digits. Like, this team is that good. And one of the reasons why is, like, the ultimate townie. He looks like a guy who could just be playing pickup in Abington or Weymouth or Braintree. Peyton Pritchard. He just goes out there. He shoots the hell out of the basketball. It goes in the net a lot. That's just what he does. Doesn't matter who it's against, how much time's on the clock, what the situation is. The dude just loves putting the ball in the basket, which I really appreciate. He loves it so much, in fact, that I don't know if you guys saw this video over the weekend, but he went out to walk his dog with his wife, I think now wife, and she turns around, and this is what she sees.
What's the hand tag, bro? What's the hand tag? What's the hand tag, bro?
Posted up some kid in the park. Kid apparently got a picture with him afterwards, but just called him out as Peyton was walking by. Was just like, "Come on, play me." Peyton went out there and played him. Great moment. Love seeing that. Obviously made that kid's day and maybe, his year. And that must be a pretty cool thing to run home and say, "Hey, I just played pickup basketball with one of the Celtics." And then 2 days later in school, what he can tell them today is, "I played pickup basketball with the best player on the planet. Did you watch the game last night? The best player." Because it comes down to the end of the third quarter. Peyton's already having a great game, by the way. He's already got 20 plus at this point. He hit his first 5 threes in this game. And when time is winding down, as you saw in the finals last year, they're going to Peyton Pritchard. Last night against the Bucks was no different.
Tell, look at him. They're already diagrammed.
Look at him. He's ready.
Look at him.
Keep your eye on Pritchard.
Connaughton hits them both. 5-point game. Pritchard springs free. Here we go.
Out on their feet.
This is his time. Pritchard fires. Oh! Pritchard magic! The Pritching hour in late October.
Would you expect anything different? By the way, you see our guy at the beginning of that clip? It's our guy, Torian Prince, at the beginning of that clip.
Sick 'em Bears.
Sick 'em. Torian had a tough night. TP had a tough night last night. And Pat Connaughton, Boston native, was taking the free throw. But Peyton Pritchard just does what Peyton Pritchard does, man. Clock winds down. He hits threes. That's all he does, man. He loves doing it. It's so sick. What a moment at the Garden last night. by the way, Drew Carter in his first year full-time Celtics play-by-play. He's fine. I'm not going to take this time to railroad him. He's fine. But that's where I miss Mike Gorman. Just let that thing breathe. The place is up for grabs at the buzzer at the end of the third quarter. Just let it breathe. I don't need a Pritching hour. I don't need Pritchard magic. I just got it. Let the place breathe. That's it. That's all. That's all. If Pete heard this, he'd be freaking out. Pete defends every play-by-play guy to the death, Scotty. You'll see this.
It's a tough job.
It is a tough job. It is a tough job, and Pete does it well. And Pete will never criticize anybody. He loves a good media guy. Loves a good media guy. But I just couldn't get over how not well they played. Like, they weren't terrible, but they did not play that well for most of this game, and they walked away with it. Milwaukee's coming off a back-to-back, but they've lost 3 in a row. This is supposed to be one of the main contenders against the Celtics this year. You faced two, I would say, the top 2 teams in the East that could possibly knock off the Celtics. You faced them both in the first week, and you beat them both by double digits. Like, everyone is chasing this team. Everyone in the league is chasing this team. And I see faults with all of these teams, and I still am looking to find the fault with the Celtics. I know I'm a fan, but I'm still looking to find the fault with them. You know, I really like Denver still, but their second unit stinks, man. Or Oklahoma City. Yeah, I like them. I thought they got exposed in that Dallas series. I think they're better than Dallas. Dallas in the West, we know what they can do against the Celtics. Philly, you're not going to get those two guys on the court at the same time, so I'm not too worried about them. No, nor was I worried about Paul George anyway. The Knicks, I think, are the main contender for them, and I don't know that they got that much better after the Cat trade. And with Milwaukee, you can just see it in the box score of this game. You can tell by the box score why Milwaukee is not at the level of the Celtics right now. Giannis and Dame were great in this game. They combined for 63 points, 13 assists, 17 rebounds. That's pretty good, man. That's a good place to be living. Both got 30 plus. And you look at the Celtics' top 2 players, Jaylen Brown 30, Jason Tatum only 15. That should be a win for the Bucks in theory, right? Wrong, because you look at the rest of the Bucks that were out there. Brook Lopez 13, Gary Trent 10. I think they were all in the first half. Taurean Prince 3, Bobby Portis 4, Pat Connaughton 5. Like, they're not getting anything scoring wise from that second unit. And you look at, and most of that is, or a couple of those are starters, by the way. Celtics get 30 and 15 from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like combined points. And then Horford 10, Derek White 13, Drew Holiday 21, Peyton Pritchard 28. That's why they're better than everyone else in the league. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, fantastic, great. But that's why. And you look back at the finals even, the Mavs did not lose that finals because of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Now, the Celtics, I thought, held them in check, and Kyrie had some bad games in there. But those guys are not the reason they lost the finals. The reason they lost the finals is because Derek White, Drew Holiday, Al Horford are much better and much more productive offensively than PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr., and Derek Lively. That's why. And that's why I look at that Dallas thing and I'm like, did you get that much better? I just don't know. With Klay Thompson, I don't know. But this is why everyone's still chasing the Celtics. And I think the Knicks could still have some decent depth, but not having a DiVincenzo type, I don't know. That hurts them. That hurts them a lot. So this is, I think, a brilliant display of you had 2 Hall of Famers on the other end who played pretty well. And the Celtics did not get a shining night from their 2 stars. And they still won by double digits. They still won it comfortably. I just, like, obviously they're not going to go 82-0. Maybe not 82-0. Like, I just don't see what teams are going to do to expose them in a 7-game series. And it's obviously very early in the season. And I think what this team has to battle is themselves, like injuries and complacency. And people are going to say, well, Cam, they take, the most threes of anybody in the league. One day they're just going to go cold. And I'm like, for a 7-game series, I don't see it. And I know it sounds naive because the top 3 teams in 3-point percentage and like usage rate of threes were those 3 Harden Rockets teams, and none of them won the title. None of them went to the finals. So maybe there is something to that. The 27 straight missed threes at one point in that game 7. But I really doubt that. I think if the Celtics are not going to get back to the finals and or not win this whole thing, it's going to be because they get some injuries. And I notice some injuries, probably not one injury, because they did have a major injury last year to one of their starters. He missed 25 games in the regular season, and then he missed 2 full playoff rounds, 2.5 when you take out some of the games in Miami. They didn't have Porzingis for 2 full rounds, and they lost 1 game in that time frame in the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to take probably multiple injuries and some meltdown for them to not get back there. I think I don't see a weakness in this team. They didn't get any worse. I don't know if they got better in the offseason, but they didn't get any worse, which is all you really need to do when you're the NBA champions. So it's a joy to watch. Absolute joy to watch. But how about my man Peyton Pritchard? 28 minutes, 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists as well. No big. But that second unit for the Celtics is a real envy, I would say. Even Xavier Tillman, who I don't even think scored last night. He didn't even score last night. He was out there. He had some blocks. He was giving you some energy. And by the way, he's like a third unit. Okay. Horford's going to be the second unit when Porzingis is back. Luke Cornett would also be that guy who barely played last night. In fact, the Celtics have a guy out there. His name is Drew Peterson. Okay. And he looks like on the floor on TV, looks like he's about my height, my build, shooting sleeve, headband. This guy looks like a walk-on in college basketball. He looks like Sam Malone from Situate, Mass, who played for Kentucky and was like 5'9", and was just on the end of the bench for Calipari because his dad knew Calipari from playing basketball together. And he's on the team with Anthony Davis. You know who he looks like? He looks like Mark Patterson from the Baylor 2021 championship team. Which, look, nothing wrong with that. Dude's in the NBA, right? But I'm just saying this is what he looks like. And it's funny that the Celtics are down for most of the game against a championship contender, and yet by the end of it, they've got a walk-on in the game. He's out there with Baylor Shireman and Jaden Springer and Nemish Queta, and they're like, don't even take a shot. Like, none of you, just dribble it out. It's so funny how good they are, man. And I'm gonna suck on this nipple for as long as they are really that good. How could I not? And it's going to be at least another year of this. So we've talked about that before. I won't go back into the contract situation, but it's going to be at least another year of this. After next year, they got to figure some things out. They'll still have the 2 stars locked in for, hopefully the rest of their careers in Boston. But like that, you've still got this year and another one to really go balls deep into this thing, which I am so excited for, man. Get ready for the most insufferable Celtics content you've ever seen this season. And I thought about this last week, Scotty. I thought about, I don't know if you saw the video, but Nick Wright put out this video about how they should the NBA should change the rules because of the Celtics, because they're too good, I guess. Like, they're too good at shooting threes, and he thinks they take too many threes. And I saw the headline and everything, and I was ready to go in there, watch it, do some screen recording, get a clip here. This is like Friday, and do a whole rant on it. But it was like an 8-minute video. I'm like, I do not have fucking time for this. I don't have time to watch Nick Wright just pull something out of thin air to be like, the Celtics are too good. They need to change this.
Was he saying the same thing when the Warriors were on their run?
No.
What? And
no.
You know,
great question. And the answer is no.
He is so on the Pat Mahomes thing every week. Does
Yes.
he advocate that the NFL change the rules because Pat Mahomes is too good?
It's a good question.
No.
See, these are the questions that need to be asked.
That's why I'm here.
And like, you look at those Warriors numbers, that it was like the same thing. In fact, the Rockets were shooting more than the Celtics have the last couple of years. Celtics might break that this year, but the Warriors were crushing everybody for a couple of years, and like no one could respond to it the way the Celtics are right now and did last season. And it was frustrating, right? As fans, we didn't want the Warriors to win anymore, but did I miss where they were saying like they need to change the rules? They're too good at shooting threes. I don't remember.
If anything, I feel like I remember people saying we should add a 4-point line because Steph Curry is so good. Think about what it would do for the game, right?
Right. And then everyone tried to copy them. They changed the game. They changed the way the game of basketball is played all the way down, by the way. And instead, and there are teams that are trying to be more like the Celtics, don't get me wrong, but instead of that kind of cultural thing of, oh, this is how the game is going, it's like, no, this is too much. They're too good at it. They take too many threes and they make too many threes. What are you going to do? You can't win them all, man. You can't win over everybody. But I will be insufferable watching this team all season long. Because, again, I do think the Knicks and the Bucks are the teams that could give them a run. And I know these are just 2 regular season games, but I don't see this Bucks team lasting with them for a 7-game series. I really doubt it. We saw Giannis at pretty much his best in 2022. He just won the title the year before, which he was great in. Great. That'll be his crowning moment, right? But he was still just as good in 2022. He was in his prime. And in that Celtics series in the second round, he dominated them. Like in the non-Horford minutes especially, he crushed them. And the Celtics still won that series. In fact, they came back from down 3-2 on the road in Milwaukee, and they still beat him. They beat him in Game 7 back at the Garden. So, like, that was Giannis at his best. And he had Drew Holiday on that team. And they still didn't beat the Celtics. And the Celtics are much better now, and they have Drew Holiday. So I just don't see that happening. And one of the damning stats that the Bucks have that gives me the hope that they will not come close to beating the Celtics in a 7-game series, their center, Brook Lopez, leads the NBA in shots contested this year. A center in today's NBA. You know what that tells me, Scotty? All their guards are getting beat off the dribble. Like, teams are not taking that many paint shots anymore unless it's given to them. Unless you can't defend the perimeter. And that's what the Bucks' problem was last year, and it's going to be the same this year. I mean, the defensive metrics were just abhorrently bad when you took out Drew Holiday and put in Dame Lillard. Great offensive player, but the stats are the stats. They dropped like 20 spots in total defense last year. Like that was free fall. And you talk about the playoffs, how they didn't have Giannis, they didn't have Dame for a couple of games. They weren't getting past that first round, even if one of them was fully healthy. 2 of them, maybe. They weren't getting past the second round. I don't think they were beating the Knicks. They did not have the defense to beat a top-tier team in the NBA in a 7-game series, and they don't this year. The Knicks did last year. They didn't get to play the Celtics, but we'll see about this year. What we will see also is if the World Series wraps up tonight, which will be very, very satisfying for myself and most of you who watch this show. Let's talk about World Series and the Yankees' plight coming up next on the Cam Show. This is so great because there's other shows going on in our studios. So Pete brought Mike in here to talk. During our live show to talk. There's a hallway. Nothing will beat, what was it, Corey last week? Just like, oh, you guys aren't recording? Just walks right in here, starts talking to Pete as I'm in the middle of the segment. Yeah, I mean, so is Mike. In a lot of ways. Anyway, Pete's next segment. We're worrying about him later. And what I'm not worrying about is this World Series. The hype. Man, the Yankees, all right, you spot them 2 in LA, fine. But now Ohtani's hurt. We're going back to New York. First World Series game at the stadium in 15 years. This is Yankee time. Until it wasn't. Ohtani played, didn't do much, right? And the Dodgers win this one 4-2. It took the second to last at-bat, the penultimate at-bat of the game for the Yankees to get on the board. What a moment for the Red Sox. Alex Verdugo homers in the World Series off Michael Kopech and over the head of Mookie Betts.
And the breaking ball, there it goes. Deep left center field, and Teoscar is there to make the catch. Oh, did I get fooled on that? What with that swing and the ball majestically going to left field, Susan, I actually thought it was going to be out, and it wasn't close.
Let's see where there was a high cutter, and he really did get some good wood under it, but it looked obviously like it was off the end of the bat. And maybe I'm looking to see if the flags pull that. No, flag's blowing in a little bit.
The poor guy, man. I mean, he shouldn't, I know John Sterling's a legend, but he retired for a reason in the middle of the season, and then you just bring him back for the playoffs. Like, what did you expect? The guy has to watch it off the monitor, and it was a terrible camera angle, and there goes John Sterling for the 15th time in the last 5 or 6 years, thinking a fly out is going to be a 500-foot moonshot. There it goes! Routine fly ball to left field. His first mistake was thinking that Aaron Judge was going to hit a home run. There was his first mistake. Because to me, this is the story of the series. You know, it was a great game 1 with the Freddie Freeman walk-off grand slam. Awesome moment. Some great pitching from the Dodgers since then. But the story of this postseason is Aaron Judge. Man, he has just absolutely stunk in this series and in this whole postseason. And really for most of his postseason career. Because now in this World Series, he is hitting .083. .083. 1 hit, a single. 1 total base in the whole series. 7 strikeouts. That's your guy. That's your superstar. That's your captain. Guy sucks, man. He saw those World Series lights and just total shrinkage. The water was cold for Aaron Judge. Totally shrunk out there. And by the way, the rest of his postseason stats aren't great either. Well, if it'll load for me. Yeah. In his career in the postseason, 196, 15 homers, 31 RBI in 56 games. And you remember he actually had a pretty good start to his postseason career, if I remember correctly. In 2017, he did strike out 27 times in 13 games that year, but did hit 4 homers and 3 doubles and drove in 11. So since then, it's just been a steady decline of Aaron Judge. In fact, being 1 for 4, I believe, in that 1-game playoff against the Red Sox a few years ago. The guy just does not perform in the playoffs. And Ohtani has not been exactly raking, but Judge's team is down. Judge's team needs him. And Giancarlo Stanton's the only one that comes up with big hits for them. And the guy can't even walk. I mean, you saw him trying to round third in that game last night, out by like 10 billion feet because he's jogging to the plate because he's got nothing. Soto is Soto. He's not having a great series. He's going to make a ton of money. But this is Aaron Judge's team. This is Aaron Judge's city. And finally, after 15 years, they get back to the World Series, and he is a complete no-show. Put him on a milk carton. No-show jobs. They're famous for that in the New York, New Jersey area. That is what Aaron Judge is giving you right now. And there was all this talk before the game of the atmosphere at Yankee Stadium. This is what it's going to be, man. Finally, they're going to be back in the World Series. The hype is coming. And let me tell you, New York, it's one of the absolute entertainment capitals of the world. They know how to entertain a crowd. They have got all kinds of celebrities they could bring in here and do some kind of performance or get the crowd going. So, of course, this is what the Yankees go with for their first home World Series game in 15 years to get them fired up.
Todo Puerto Rico! Yeah! What's up, New York? Let's go, Yankees! Soto, I see you. Judge, I see you. Okay, it's different over here. Yeah, I don't get faults on his hat, pitch Dodgers. We from the Bronx, New York. Things happen. New York City, it's time to apply that pressure. If you love the Yankees, make some noise. I am the dose of Babe Ruth, the Bronx Bomber himself.
What the hell was that? What was that? Fat Joe, who, I mean, give him credit. They pulled out a really relevant, topical musical artist in Fat Joe, who does have a new podcast called Fat Joe Talks. And by the way, can we call him Joe at this point? He's looking slender. He's looking good. All right. We don't need to call him Fat Joe anymore. And he comes out there. Boy, that place was jacked. Did you hear that, Scotty? What did he say? Holla if you like the Yankees.
Yay.
Well, Fat Joe, I did just pay $2,500 to sit in the second deck of a Yankees World Series game. I guess I like him. Like, Fat Joe, man. When was the last Fat Joe single? 20 years ago? I love the song Lean Back, by the way. But that was 20 years ago. Like, what are we doing? Something happened to this franchise when they moved out of the old stadium. Something happened to it. I know they were they weren't like the last couple of years at the old Yankee Stadium. They weren't like World Series contenders necessarily. They actually did win it the first year of this stadium, but something happened there. Okay. It's not the Bronx Zoo anymore. There's no aura about the Yankees anymore. There's no, like, they used to get Jay-Z to come out and do that when Jay-Z had just come out with a song about New York. And now they're bringing out Fat Joe 20 years later, singing somebody else's song in the middle there. The whole thing was like, nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. And there's like these middle-aged white ladies in the crowd. Like, I'm like, what the fuck happened to this team? What happened to this franchise? I love it. But what happened to the New York Yankees, man? And talk about just a lame duck performance in this World Series. They have laid over and died for the Dodgers. This was supposed to be the matchup, the World Series matchup historically. The Dodgers and the Yankees, New York and LA, two of the most decorated franchises and two of the best players in all of baseball. And what we've gotten is an absolute dud outside of that Freddie Freeman Grand Slam, which was pretty cool. But other than that, the two MVPs have not shown up. And LA is never really a great sports town. So you don't get a great environment there. You don't get it in New York because everyone's got to pay $2 to $3 grand just to get in the freaking door. It's an absolute bummer for Major League Baseball. It stinks. Now, it does remind me of what I was saying about the NHL earlier this year. Not the classic franchise necessarily, but a good matchup with the Panthers and the Oilers in the Stanley Cup final. And then it went to 3-0, and I said, well, sucks for the NHL. It's too bad. I thought they were going to get a good series there. And the Oilers pushed it to 7. I don't know that I could see this Yankees team doing it. But in a hilarious, ironic twist, it would be so funny if Aaron Boone motivates his team by showing them the Red Sox documentary of 2004. You know, like he should be pulling them into the clubhouse and just popping in 4 days in October right there. It can be done. It can be done. Trust me. But the Yankees, just a complete no-show. It's hilarious. They keep showing their fans during the game, and they're like, like they can't believe what's happening. Oh my God, I just put my whole mortgage to get into this game. I watched some of the Barstool stream. Those fucking losers, man. And they're out there. They think it's going to be a Judge home run too. These losers, man. The Yankees. If the Yankees get swept in this series, that would be the best Red Sox thing that's happened to me in 3 years. Because right now it's the documentaries, number one, if we're being honest. And then this would just be so hilarious to me because this did kind of line up, right? The Astros lose in the first round. The Yankees really don't have much competition. The teams that they were facing were not nearly as good as them getting into the World Series. And to be honest, I thought they were just as good as this Dodgers team. The way the Dodgers starting pitching was going, not anymore. Walker Buehler turns it around. All he does is just dick teams in the World Series, man. He has like the worst year of his career and just drops it right out on the table in the World Series like he always does. He has pitched, I think it was like 20 World Series innings. He's given up 1 run. The guy is just a machine when it comes to this moment. And he went in there, Yankee Stadium, Bronx Zoo. Fat Joe got him all fired up. I see you, Aaron Judge. I see you, Soto. Holla if you like the Yankees. And somehow Walker Buehler was able to fan those flames, okay, and deal with that Yankee environment and just dick the Yankees. It would be so funny, man. They were that close to getting shut out in that game too. In a game a must win at home, World Series. Like, take all their pinstripes away if they get swept in this World Series. My golly, it will be funny. Because the Dodgers have been the one that have been trolled the last few years, right? They won a Mickey Mouse championship, and then they were nowhere to be found after that. They kept losing in the division series or just not getting over the hump, right? I think they lost in the championship series one of those years. But they couldn't get over the hump. They had spent more than anybody, like, ever. And yet here we are rooting for them, Destiny's Darlings, because the other team is the Yankees. And I thought San Diego had the Dodgers in that division series. I thought they had them done and dusted. They did not. And so it's funny to me that the team that's been trolled the last few years for not getting over the hump, even with all that they've spent, faces a Yankee team that has similar things thrown at them, but got to roll through the American League, and they could finish them off in a 4-game sweep. Could. I did have this great stat from Jared Carrabis. Oh, no, this one's even better. I'll get to the Carrabis one in a second. So we had the sports equinox yesterday, right? How about this? New York City is the first metro city to lose a game in Major League Baseball, NBA, MLS, and NFL on the same day. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York. All they do is set records out here. They're first city ever to do it. Congrats to you, New York. A city so nice they named it twice. Boston could never do that. So congrats to you, New York. Boston couldn't do that. Where's my stat that I was looking for? I swear I bookmarked it. This is where I'm going to get frustrated. This happens all the time. Scotty, get used to it. It happens all the time with me. What the F, man? It was It was his average and his numbers since the Boombox incident. Scotty, what is your favorite scary movie?
I like scary movies that make fun of scary movies.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of Cabin in the Woods
Okay.
and Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I never heard of that last one. What's that last? Oh, never mind. I don't care anymore because I found the stat.
Good deal.
I do actually kind of want to hear about that later. So since 2018, Game 2 of the ALDS when Aaron Judge rolled past the Red Sox clubhouse with a boombox that was playing New York, New York. Since then, there are 133 players who have had at least 50 plate appearances in the postseason. 133. Judge, since that time, his average is 115th. His slugging percentage is 98th. His OPS is 102nd. And his strikeout rate is 109th. MVP, MVP, MVP. It's fun to watch. I can't help myself. I know I shouldn't, but it's not a good Christian thing to do. I think there is something in the Bible that says like you shouldn't laugh at the plight of others unless it's the New York Yankees. Like that's okay. You know? Like
Yeah,
am I
I've read
supposed to
it.
feel bad for these people? I can't feel bad for these people. I cannot. And nor should they for me. But it is hilarious. Anyway, Pete Souza, he will be with us next on a little thing we like to call the Cam Show. It's that time.
Hey,
Pete Souza is here. Did you catch that that big Rizzler cameo on Jimmy Fallon last night?
what was the Rizzler? I don't get it. First of all, Jimmy Fallon was on Howard Stern yesterday, and whatever.
Oh, did Howard
Well,
Howard
no,
do the blowjob thing with him too?
They're buddies, you know.
That again, there's nothing wrong with Jimmy Fallon.
No.
But like those guys being buddies, that doesn't like kind of rub you the wrong way, knowing the old Howard.
Look. Yeah, I guess.
This is not gonna be a Howard Stern thing, I promise.
No,
The Rizzler is part of this Costco
The
family. Have you
Rizzler.
not how have you not
all
followed
right,
this?
there we go. I've downloaded it.
They're everywhere.
What is
AJ,
that?
Big Justice.
No.
Dude, actually, you know what I saw on Twitter last night that made
Hold
me
up.
think of you a little bit, Pete? What are you fucking doing? Probably that thing that's hanging on it right there. Yeah.
Boom. Boom. Let there be light, brother. Here we go. A little better. All right, go ahead.
Is that one on the other
No,
side?
it's not on either.
That might help. There you go. Yeah.
Hey, Scotty. All right, so Cam, what was your question?
So I didn't have a question. It
So,
was something that made me think
know.
of you.
I don't know anything about that.
It was something that made me think of you. I'm not doing the Rizzler thing.
Okay.
That's too much to explain.
All right.
But someone had sent the screen cap from like it's probably the last season of Sopranos.
Yeah.
And Meadow comes into AJ's room, and she goes, "I was just watching Borat on cable. You can watch that thing like 50 times, and it's still hilarious." And it's just AJ like looking out into his window, and he goes, "It wasn't fair to the people involved." I fucking hate late
Yeah.
season AJ. I mean, who doesn't?
How much do you love that show, though? dude?
Oh, it's so
I mean,
good,
that,
man.
that
It's
is so
perfect.
brilliant.
It's so perfect. I just think like, I mean, we talked about the documentary with David Chase, but
Yeah.
he's so brilliant at manipulating characters or manipulating the audience to characters. Obviously, the main example is Tony Soprano and feeling sympathetic for him
Yeah.
a lot of the time because he's a family man. But like, he knows just how to make AJ like hateable,
Uh-huh.
even though he's a kid. And it's something that like a lot of parents have to deal with their kids, you know, kids being angsty and not quite getting it and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of parents have to deal with that. And so, but they make it so realize that he's just a regular kid, but he'll piss you off.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like there's so many characters like that. Or how you start to realize kind of how pathetic Paulie Walnuts is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's depressing. That was a big come down for me because he is like an anti-hero who you really cheer for. And then I was like, oh, I can't even root for this guy anymore. he's bad. He's bad news, and he's like soft at the core. Like he doesn't
And
have
he's just like kind of a loser. You know what I mean? Like he kind of is.
Yeah. I guess, you know, the Pine Barrens episode, like that's people like basically before death. So I'm not trying to say I wouldn't be like that too.
Right.
But
There's plenty more to pick from.
Yeah, but you do see a vulnerability in him that you don't expect from a guy who's killing old ladies with, you know, like he's angry at them.
Or I think a great example of that, which is something we've all dealt with, right? I'm not saying that none of us do this, but when he goes to Italy, or they all go to Italy, but Paulie's trying to like really hit it off with his paisans.
Yes.
And like everyone's like, who the fuck are you? Like, he's like, buongiorno. And they're just like, turn around and continue tricking. Like nobody wants to give a shit about him. Like it's funny. It's funny. Pete, what's going on with you, man?
Well, Cam, I like to come and I literally,
so do I. Yeah.
Your show can sometimes really stir up emotion in people. And that means you're doing a good job. So I'm sitting here listening to you talk about the Yankees. First of all, I saw,
by the way, this is all I have with baseball.
Yeah.
With the way the Red Sox are run right now.
Look,
watching the Yankees.
The Fat Joe thing was very relevant, but wouldn't you say, okay, now if I'm going to play devil's advocate,
please, you like to. Yeah.
Saturday night,
also
Ice
dumb.
Cube marches out there.
I didn't see it till afterwards. Also dumb. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. I should have acknowledged
Now,
that.
here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that the Yankees felt like we need to answer Ice Cube with a hip hop guy of our own? Like, did that happen?
Yes.
That's awful.
Yes.
Like
the whole thing's terrible. Yes.
So now I'm about to piggyback on you because you're the New York Yankees. You
can't even this is a franchise that won't stoop down to the level of putting names on the back of their road uniforms.
Yeah.
And you feel you need to answer Ice Cube? You know what I mean? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I would love to find out if that really happened. Now, here's another thing, Cam.
He has also been plugging a bunch of stuff with this new podcast show. Like I've seen
Yeah.
a bunch of commercials.
And
on
Fat
Hulu.
Joe's the man in New
Yeah,
York,
it looks terrible.
but it doesn't.
And he's a Bronx guy.
Yeah.
Could have got Jay-Z, but there's some trouble there. Could have got Diddy.
Do you think Jay-Z's in trouble with all this?
I think he's staying out of some things. I think he's staying out of the limelight.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say yes, but like after the Epstein thing, when nobody else got in trouble, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You know?
I
Can't
have
hold my
like
breath on anybody.
before we get back to the Yankees, I have two sides to that. It's like you're
Epstein?
No, you're at a huge
Elaine's right?
party at Diddy's house, and you're just like you're in the house, but you don't know what's going on. Like there's so much death by association there,
Probably. Yeah.
or guilt by association, I should say. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Now I see you going on and on about this series isn't over, Cam.
I know it's been done. In
I
baseball
just
history.
watched a documentary.
I know it's been done.
About the 2004 Red Sox. So wouldn't it be amazing, right? Wouldn't it be amazing if your Red Sox somehow plant a seed of possibility in the Yankees and their fan base? Because a lot of people are watching that. If one Yankee watches that, if one Yankee or is told about it, could you imagine if the Red Sox feed into their arch nemesis? You know what? I got to stop this. I got to save this for the open of my show. It's too good.
And I will say, this is going to sound butthurt, and it's not because I've thought this through.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't mean as much. They would still win the World Series, and it would still be an unbelievable story, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be the first to do it.
No,
and it wouldn't be the same storyline.
Yeah.
But I was thinking 2 years ago when the Celtics forced a Game 7 after being down 3-0 in the conference finals. And there was so many parallel, like everyone was putting out all the Red Sox stuff. Joe Mazzulla, the coach, was like, yeah, we watched 4 Days in October. Like that's our inspiration. And they, of course, Tatum rolls his ankle in Game 7 and they lose. But do you remember that Derek White tip in at the buzzer?
Yes.
Game 6 in Miami?
Yes.
So I was thinking about the Red Sox comeback last night, the 0-4 one. And I was like, imagine that Derek White buzzer beater, that improbable tip in buzzer beater. The Red Sox essentially did that twice in a row.
Yeah.
Mariano had never blown a save in the ALCS and had blown like 2 in his postseason career.
Yeah.
He did
and
it
he walked,
back to
he
back
walked like
nights.
nobody. And he let
and he walks Kevin Millar. Like, and then he blows saves back-to-back nights. That's unthinkable. That's the whole grandiose of the comeback is so awe-inspiring and so much of the story that you forget these little things like that. And like the fact that Keith Folk pitched in 3 games in a row and was throwing like 40 pitches a night as a closer. That would never happen again.
Yeah.
Multiple innings, like doing that every night. So many of those that you kind of forget about, but yeah. Red Sox did that twice.
How about
And
we
then
got
won
your
2
boy
more. What?
Mosley.
What?
I'm going back and forth with a guest today.
Matt Mosley?
Yeah. He doesn't
You said
know
his
how
name,
much I
but-
look up to him, and he's kind of like my hero. So he doesn't sometimes when he doesn't get back to me, I get my feelings hurt.
I think Pete should be aiming higher there. I don't know, Pete.
There's nobody I'd rather talk to about the Cowboys than Mosley. There's a couple things I really want to get into him with. One, the Mike Leslie confrontation. 2, the Cowboys have no identity. I really want to see what he thinks about where the team's going. 3, he said they were going to make the playoffs. I don't know now.
Mike Leslie and Trayvon Diggs were thinking about the same thing at the same time, because Mike Leslie is always thinking about Mike Leslie and Mike Leslie's tweets. And so is Trayvon Diggs at that time.
You just come up with that right now? Have you been sitting on that?
I mean, it's
That's
a thought, but I just,
Yeah.
that's like what I say. What is the biggest thing that Grace and I have in common? We're both big fans of me. Her more so most days, if we're being honest, the whole depression thing. But
Hey, what about Sawyer Robertson was up here yesterday?
the Baylor quarterback.
Yeah.
I didn't get to stick around.
I mean, that's locked on content for you,
I
baked
know.
in.
I know.
Now I got to try to remember.
And I was going to ask him because I had his high school coach on the show last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't watch that interview, I guess. No big deal.
No, but I will tell you this much.
Yeah.
Boy, you hear about it, and I had, even like in camp, and even last year, I hadn't seen it with him. One, because he was playing hurt,
Mhm.
and two, this year I didn't see training camp,
Right.
obviously. So like I'm like, Daquan Finn should be the starter. He's exciting. I watch a bunch of highlights. I'm like a little kid.
Which
I
we all
can't wait.
thought. To
Yeah,
be fair to you, Pete.
but you hear about how much of a tremendous guy he is, and really, it's almost better. I don't know what it is, but like as somebody who like analyzes the game from time to time, I almost don't want to meet these guys in a sense where it can skew how you see them as players, because there's no better person than that guy that came up here yesterday. I was like, whoa, blown away. And you hear about how great of a guy he is, whether it's from people affiliated with the team or people who come in contact with him, man. And then you remember, okay, well, he's the leader, right? Not a tough guy to get behind at all.
Sure.
And
I think you've seen it.
yeah. And so I think something's happening over there. I'll just say that. I think something's happening over there. Because Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, now this is a guy, he's got another year of eligibility left.
Mhm. Yep.
And all signs would point to him, if the offseason were to start today, that he would stay at Baylor.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a great thing.
So now we've
You
got
just caught me in a week where I would like, if it were any other team, I would be just totally over the top with how good a situation Baylor's in right now. If they were playing BYU or Iowa State, I would feel better about doing some shit talking in a week like this. But it's TCU and we never beat them, so and it hurts me when we don't beat them. Like it.
don't you? I
pains
remember
me,
when
man.
you guys beat him in 2019.
I do too. I was there.
Okay.
Front row.
Then what are you bitching about?
That's the only time in 10 years, Pete.
Okay. That's
Like it's there. We're not talking about Alabama here. You know what I mean? Like I laid this out yesterday. Whether we're good, they're bad, or vice versa, or both mid, or both ass, it doesn't matter. TCU beats us. What is the biggest hate watch you've ever had in like a championship?
Oh, well, you'll find this funny. I used to despise the Cowboys. I mean, really,
Of course.
really. There,
You should still.
I
but-
almost think I was misguided as a person, how much I hated them. I can remember,
Pete.
and I'll tell you something.
We can't let the Philly people hear this, man.
Well, I'll tell you something, and this hopefully, I don't even want to say who this person is, but I don't care. I'll say it because all he does is break my balls. So my brother and I, this is 1999. I remember it so well. And Michael Irvin suffers what looks like could be a debilitating injury. He's laying lifeless pretty much on the ground at Veterans Stadium.
oh no.
And I hear my brother, let's just say he was happy with that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was
He was not alone. at the
no,
vet.
but I can remember that's where I think that was a little jarring, even for me at the time. But I used to really despise the Cowboys so much. I can't even. I mean, I'm sure I can.
Well, you were a kid during the dynasty.
yeah, and I did not.
High school, early high school.
Yeah, early high school, exactly. Yeah. And I saw them when they were terrible, and I loved it. I really grew up hating the Cowboys, like Buddy Ryan, like Bounty Bowl stuff, like throwing snowballs at Jimmy Johnson running off the field. I hated the Cowboys with a white hot passion that would burn you to the touch. But now,
Well, they haven't been in anything close to a championship for hate watch, though.
yeah,
So
yeah. And then the
since
Eagles.
then, so
I mean, I don't know. So I don't think I have that as much as I used to. I used to hate Georgetown. Like, absolutely could not. I despise Georgetown. John Thompson, all those guys.
Scotty, you have an all-time hate watch, like championship hate watch?
So I grew up in Waco,
Uh-huh.
and that meant I grew up rooting for the Rangers. So it was the Houston Astros
Okay, that's good.
for the longest time, especially.
in those World Series that they won.
I mean, a little
They
bit.
lost.
Yeah, by the time they were in those, I was hate watching, but also during the Triple B's era with
Okay.
BGO Berkman and Bagwell.
Yeah.
Man, I loved watching them lose. That was it. That was it for me.
05.
Yeah, around that time.
I'm trying to think of what mine is.
And then here's the other one,
right
Cam.
now, the
he just
Yankees one is
freaked
good.
out for 20 minutes.
It's
About the
good.
Yankees.
Here's
But,
the-
I would not have been able to live with myself if TCU had a football national championship.
So I was gonna say, Cam, the most fun I've
Wow.
ever had watching a
Cool.
championship was probably watching TCU
Yeah.
just get boat raced by Georgia.
Awesome.
That was
I almost
true.
didn't want to watch. Like I was so nervous that.
Why do you like?
What if they actually?
What's the disdain for TCU? Like,
So-
is it because they're go ahead, Scotty.
So this is the second day in a row I get to do a little brief Baylor history lesson here. This is great. So
Not usually on the Cam show. Pete,
So-
what's up?
when the Big 12 was formed, kind of combining leftovers from the Big 8 and the Southwestern Conference, there were 12 spots and 11 filled, and you had Baylor and TCU on the outside looking in. And Baylor got that 12th position in no small part due to certain lawmakers in Austin being Baylor alumni and craftily making sure Baylor got that 12th seat in the Big 12 rather than TCU.
Dan
And-
Richards,
Possibly
correct?
governor
And-
of
and-
Texas.
yeah,
Yes.
correct,
Waco High
correct.
grad and Baylor grad.
And Richard died sober.
Correct.
My girl, I
So
love
so
it.
there's this bitterness that really goes back to the fire in what year did you say that was?
1910.
There you go. And it overflowed in the Big 12 era. And I don't know, man, we've always hated each other. And I think part of that was too, when I was a student, our first non-conference game, first football game of the season was TCU coming to Waco. So when RG3 made his splash onto the scene and during his Heisman year, just threw for a ridiculous amount of yards and touchdowns in that game. Baylor won late. RG3 caught a pass in that game.
Yes.
That was the game where I believe that was the game where that was against. Was that the game when Kendall Wright caught the ball off the helmet, or was that Oklahoma?
That was OU.
That was Oklahoma. Anyway, and then the next year they joined the conference. So just a good time, man.
And by the way, the TCU fans, like vicious. Like they're the worst I've had. I hate UT fans on the whole. And certain acquaintances of Pete, cover your ears. I don't like the OU fans at all. But TCU, like they are like mean. Like they are.
Well, it's definition.
And which like I obviously understand. Like
Yeah.
it's I mean, I can get vicious too, but like they are bad.
Yeah.
And I've never had good run-ins with them. And there's all and in the 2010s, that was a big deal. Patterson versus Bryles, man. They hated each other, could not stand each other. And like that was a very real thing. Like we talk about rivalries that aren't quite real anymore, they don't have the juice anymore. Then they had it. They had it. And there's just been so much similarity through the years that I think it breeds a lot of distaste.
How much is at stake, like on Saturday? Do you feel as an alum, you too, Scotty? Like, are you guys like piping hot for this one? Can you not wait? Are you nervous?
It's always a different week for me than any other week. I don't know about you, Scott.
Yeah, I used to tell my buddies I'd almost rather see us go 1-11, but whoop TCU than go 11-1 and lose to TCU. That's how I feel about it. And again, I was at Baylor during the Heisman and the two championships, including 2014 61-58 game.
Yeah.
So like, I really, really, really care about this one. I am hoping that Baylor comes out and wins so big it gets Sonny Dykes fired. That's what I'm looking for.
That would be so great. It's also I've kind of said this the last few weeks about Baylor getting off the schneid, right? First, they needed to win a game. They did it. Well, then they need to win a game at home because that's something they've really struggled with in the conference. They had not won a conference home game in 2 years before Saturday. And now it feels like that next hurdle. Beat TCU. Only done it. You've not done it in Dave Aranda's tenure. You've done it once in the last decade.
It will be a major.
You're evenly matched. Baylor will be favorites. They're favorites right now. I think you'll actually get a really good crowd out there, and you'll get plenty of frogs there too. They'll travel down. They live amongst us. Biggest TCU fan I know lives in Waco. So there's going to be a lot behind it. I said this yesterday. It's not going to be on ESPN. Not going to see it on College Game Day. But make no mistake about it. There's going to be a lot behind this game.
Sick 'em.
I fucking hate TCU, man. I did a 2-week journalism camp at TCU in high school. Fun
Really?
fact. Yeah.
Did you almost go there?
No, but I mean, not almost went there, but it was on my list. Yeah, before I knew any better. And then literally like after that, I was like, I liked the people, like the faculty I was working with there, but I didn't really like the school. I didn't love the campus location. Like I just, it's fine. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I was feeling. And then I went down and saw some of the other schools in Texas, including Baylor, which really stuck out to me. And I was like, that's the place I want to go instead.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more. And I did apply to TCU. I did get in. Said no, thank you. No, thank you.
Get out of here, dude.
I would rather be lost in Waco. Okay. So that's a big one this weekend. I'm sure we'll touch on it some more. I wrote a great article a couple years ago
Really?
about like the history of this rivalry.
Why don't you become a
from
beat
Sports
writer?
Illustrated? Because there's no.
Why don't
like,
you go work at a newspaper? If you're gonna leave,
there's no
here-
newspapers anymore.
Okay,
That's why.
that's a good.
I tried to be a newspaper guy out of college because that's all I had done.
Yeah,
And I just got thrown into TV news. I didn't even know how to use the camera.
yeah,
That
that happens.
yeah.
You got to
There just
redirect.
wasn't anything.
You got to redirect, and you have redirected.
Redirected, man.
I'm
So here I am.
Cam.
I would love to write again.
You're sitting there every day.
I don't
with
know if I'm
Matt
very good at
Mosley
it,
at the
but-
foot of the master, and you're not asking him how I should do this.
Do what?
Cover
Radio?
a team.
Oh, I guess. I
Mosley
could
was-
do that.
Probably on the biggest beat you can be on. in
Yes.
sports.
Yes. Yeah. 1000%. Dude,
Yeah.
one last quick thing because we're already over time,
Yeah.
but it's about beat writing. Dan Shaughnessy wrote a book a couple years ago about covering the 80s Celtics because before
Yeah.
he was on the Red Sox beat, he was on the Celtics beat.
Was it like the best? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically like My Time with Larry Bird kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it's a good book and it's fun to hear those stories. Obviously, those guys are a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
And he leaves the Celtics right before the 86 playoffs or like February because he gets the job covering the Red Sox. And he was like, he says it in the book. He was like, it might be weird to look back at now, but that was a promotion. Like that was the biggest writing job you could have in baseball was
Yeah.
covering the Red Sox for the Boston Globe.
Think about that.
Like that. And I'm like, wow. You know, we're talking the 80s Celtics in the middle of the greatest season in the history of the greatest franchise. Larry Bird. And he's like, I gotta give Bob Stanley a hard time
Yeah.
in Clearwater. You know, I love
Yeah.
that. And that's what I mean, Pete. That's how I'll end this. The Red Sox used to be everything. It didn't used to mean something. It meant everything in that town. 1:00, Pete will be on.
Yeah.
Pete Souza show. YouTube. Scotty will be there too.
So are you. You're going to be. on the
I'm
last
going to be
segment.
there too, I guess. And we'll see you right back here, high noon Eastern tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time. It's the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network.